I really do. I love all of you for coming. It's so nice. And what about this place? What about the Players Club?
Magnificent.
People?
Magnificent.
As we're witnessing the destruction of New York City, every single block, I mean, seriously, ride the bus down Fifth Avenue. Huge gaping holes. And, you know, even for, you know, some of us who have good memories, it's hard to remember where anything was. What used to be here?
Yeah.
What used to be, I mean, the East Village is being decimated, you know. But here we are, and this place is filled with ghosts.
Yeah.
Filled with ghosts. Edwin Booth.
Yes. Edwin.
He's in here.
Yeah, sure.
And all of his friends. Do you know they have a little elevator? Do you know that Sarah Bernhardt got stuck in the
Yes, I've heard that story. Yes.
And I'll tell you one more thing about that just came to my mind. We did this show in Brighton, in England, and we happened to be in this historic theater in Brighton. And then somebody told me that I used to be obsessed with Sarah Bernhardt when I was like 19. And you know, she continued on stage into her 80s, and she was an amputee from she lost her leg. And I found out that it happened at that theater in Brighton. So I'm, you know, just telling the story to the audience, and then a month later, I hurt my knee. So, you know, you have to be careful with these ghosts. You really have to be careful because, sometimes they're irritable. They can be very irritable, but I feel really great in the space. I'm so glad that Cindy Marion and White Horse Theater asked Steve and I to come here. It's so much fun, you know. And so this show's going to start when he starts playing music. And then you'll see the difference between me and my work, because up there will be work. And here's just me, just an average. I like to tell people I'm an ordinary person living an extraordinary life.
Beautiful shot.
I'm being sort of 1919. It just came over to me. When I was a little girl and I saw the movie of the fairy tale Snow White, I didn't want to be Snow White. I wanted to be the evil queen.
Amen.
I mean, I didn't want to dress like Snow White, all blue and red and flouncy with the ugly white collar. I wanted to dress like the evil queen. I loved her look, didn't you?
The snood, yeah.
The tight black hood, like Azadine Elia.
Right.
In the front, like Mary McFadden. The red lipstick.
Beautiful.
Come on. Snow White was so bland. She was such a bore. Okay, so the queen was evil. She wanted to be the fairest in the land. Who among us is not guilty of that?
Right.
Okay, so she was a narcissist. Okay. But Snow White was a control freak. Snow White was borderline. She was all over those dwarfs. Those dwarfs were walking around on eggshells around her. So what if they were grumpy? So what if they were sleepy? So what if they were dopey? What business of hers was it? And just when I thought I couldn't stand Snow White, another second, with her goody-goody Snow White shit, the evil queen knocked Snow White out with a poison apple. Yeah. A poison apple put Snow White in a coma. And there was Snow White, deep in a coma, deep in the forest, surrounded by dwarves, in a glass coffin, just like Tilda Swinton at the Museum of Modern Art. Don't worry about my breasts. I do this naturally.
Oh, she's on fire tonight, man.
From antiquity, the apple has represented the fruit of knowledge, of good and evil. Adam and Eve ate from the apple, and sin was born. That's why New York City was called the Big Apple, i.e. Sin City. For hundreds of years, people left their villages and small country towns seeking their freedom in the city. Sanctuary from prying eyes and small town morality, people fled to the city to bask in anonymity and to pursue their pleasure. Because in a puritanical society, pleasure is sin. Therefore, pleasure is a radical value. People used to come to New York from all over the world, and we all wanted to be part of it all. We were inspired and intoxicated by the palpable freedom in the streets of New York. We wanted to reinvent ourselves in the face of that amazing magnetic energy. We wanted to be another log on the pyre that made New York great. Now people come to New York and they want New York to be like where they're from. They don't feel the need to reinvent themselves. They want to reinvent New York. They don't think they need to evolve.
No.
They just think they need to become successful and make a lot of money. And somewhere along the line, these people have gotten the idea that they're fine. Just the way they are. Well, they're not fine.
No!
And everyone knows it. Even people who moved to New York 2 weeks ago can't stand them. Even people visiting New York for the first time this week know that something essential has changed in New York City. They can feel it. You see people on the street. They're standing on the corner going, where is it? What happened?
Oh, no.
They know that New York has been suburbanized.
Oh, no.
Human beings are herd animals. Human beings, all of us, we are group animals. Some human beings form crowds, while other human beings form packs. Crowds are formed by conformists, by people with a desperate need for everyone in their life to agree and believe every single thing they think and believe. Political correctness is a crowd activity. Fascism is a crowd activity. Queer theory is a crowd activity. Certain pub crawls are a crowd activity. Packs are formed by nonconformists, by independent thinkers, people who celebrate other people having their own ideas, people with no shared belief system. But now more and more we are ruled by consensus, by groupthink. Fewer and fewer people are willing to stand up and say what they think in public. Even on social media. Well, you know what happens when you say what you think on social media. It's the witch hunt. You know the drill. You must fit in. You must agree. You must submit. Now we can only say what we think, what we actually think, to our 3 closest friends. And hope nobody's listening.
It's so true.
Mediocrity has become the new black. by accident. In the 1920s, Edward Bernays, the father of public relations, combined his research on crowd psychology with the findings of his uncle Sigmund Freud on our desire nature. Sigmund Freud had learned that our desire nature as humans can never be permanently fulfilled. And Edward Bernays combined Freud's idea on our desire nature with crowd psychology in order to create modern advertising with the express and stated goal of turning all Americans into constant consumers.
I knew this. I knew.
In 1930, Edward Bernays said, if we understand the motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control the masses according to our will without their ever knowing it? Okay, I know this is dull, dry. Okay, psychology, sociology, what does that have to do with entertainment? But people, hang in with me. I'll take you there. Yeah, you're worried. You told me she did comedy. I can't believe I paid to hear this shit. I skipped this class in university. Look, people. Oh! We know from modern neuroscience that in order to have a new idea, in order to form a new opinion, we have to make a physical groove in our brain that is deeper than the physical groove of the last idea we had. Thinking is hard work, people. That's why so few people do it.
I didn't know.
Thinking is sexy, people, especially when we do it together. I'll take you there. In 1968, Debord, the situationist, warned us that the government, the financial institutions, and technology had merged with media and advertising to create a powerful illusion of reality that was going to suck us all in. He called this mass hypnosis the integrated spectacle. The integrated spectacle. What is it? It is the mass media manipulation that is being poured into our brain pan 24/7. There is no reality. There are no facts. There's only distraction from reality, only circus sideshow, only car wreck, only spectacle. Every problem in the United States is now solved by the emergence of a new problem. And that never gets solved either. War in Ukraine, but wait! Microplastics are in your bloodstream, but wait! The integrated spectacle. It's all there in the first 5-minute voiceover of the movie Sunset Boulevard.
I love it.
Hollywood, California, where 2,700 press agents working overtime can do terrible things to the human spirit. The integrated spectacle, how does it work? The media hijacks our attention and then rents it back to us. The integrated spectacle. Let's see if I can break this down for you. In the 1920s, we were just dipping our toes in advertising. People did not want to be told anything. They did not want to be sold anything. They were suspicious of the government and society's motives. It was the era of the rugged individual. But thanks to Edward Bernays, by 1930, we were up to our ankles in advertising. By 1940, up to our knees. By 1950, up to our waist. By 1960, up to our chest. But we knew it. We talked about it. It was discussed. People rebelled against consumerism. By 1970, we were up to our necks in advertising. But people fought back. People weren't going to take it. People shouted, "Smash the machine!" But people born after 1980 were born submerged in the integrated spectacle. They have never known one moment when their consciousness wasn't saturated with marketing, overstimulation, fragmentation, and disinformation. And you know what? They're in charge now. I grew up outside the hypnotic swirl of media and market in the culture of resistance. I have never been to Disneyland. I never owned a Barbie doll. I never saw Jaws, Star Wars, E.T., or Raiders of the Lost Ark. I never watched The Brady Bunch, Cheers, Friends, Seinfeld, Sex and the City, or Girls. I did not watch television for 40 years. I was too busy fucking, getting high, and trying to evolve. I am not encoded. I am not brainwashed. I reside outside the illusion of the spectacle, in the world of substance over appearance. In a scientific experiment, the group not acted upon by outside influence is called? Yes! The control group. I am part of the control group. And obviously, I'm not the only one. In the past, even as we move forward into our future, we brought our cultural history with us. The music hall, the gay bar, the bohemian cafe, the used bookstore, the black jazz and blues club, the psychedelic hot shot, the rock and roll bar, the strip joint. One authentic culture after another lived in harmony with what had come before and remained completely available and visible to all newcomers. Yes, the world has always changed. But the change going on in the world right now is different. This is a change that destroys authenticity. This is a change that erases history. This is a change that creates cultural amnesia. And out there, the wounded spirit of our cities cry out. And we're filled, no, not with nostalgia. No, we are not filled with nostalgia. Nostalgia is what they accuse us of when we try to point out what's being lost culturally. We're not filled with nostalgia. We are filled with longing. I make friends with cities, make friends with people. Maybe it's because my need for solitude and sanctuary has always been so great. As a child, in my immigrant Italian mother's house, even grown up, I was never allowed to close my bedroom door or be alone for any period of time. Instead, I found sanctuary where they could not follow me. The empty railroad tracks behind my house, the black acid plateau below the dump, the jagged granite outcrop. On my way to school, every single day I would climb up, my back against that rock, the sun in my face. Spread your wings. Come on, fly. Straight to my arms, early your child. We can find many things in other people, but solitude and sanctuary are not among them. No matter how kind, how non-judgmental, or even how silent, not even a lover can hold our solitude or offer us sanctuary. Solitude cannot be shared. It can only shelter one. And we must try hard never to turn another person into a sanctuary. I know that many people cannot fathom New York City as a place of solitude and sanctuary, but for some of us, for many of us, this cacophonous, scurrying, chaotic city held a holy peace. The asphalt jungle, they called it in the 1960s, boundaried by danger and risk, physical, emotional, cultural, intellectual risk. And we, who needed that raw, unmapped landscape, craved it with a desperation as great as the bleakness that emanated from its haunted streets. You know you're me. Only 22 storied love. That bleakness flowed and met the desolation of our own hearts. The way the sea washes back into its tributaries. We, who fit nowhere else. We who ground to the granite ignite below our feet. We who fled the myopic, claustrophobic puritanism of America's interior, breathed free, though ragged, in its harsh embrace. Grab it, ketchup. Grab it, ketchup. Fly it, fly it, try it. Everyone talks about how the world is changing. Well, I may be wrong, but some of us know that the world has changed forever. But something deep in my heart tells me I'm right, but I don't think so. There are no more empty places. You know I saw the writing on the wall. No dark alleyways, no secret corners left anywhere. Look, New York City, it's only a tiny island. Manhattan is only a tiny island. It was easy to conquer. And now all of the other boroughs have fallen in behind it, and now New York City is like any other city in the world. It too has been mapped, delineated, bought, sold, branded. Time out New York. Time out London. Time out Berlin. Time out Istanbul. Time out Bangkok. Time out Aleppo. Time out Kyiv. When I tell people what I miss about New York, people think I'm talking about when I was young. They think I'm talking about the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. They think I'm talking about a time that's been glorified to them. Like in Patti Smith's book, Just Kids. People come up to me on the street and they go, "Oh my God, Penny Arcade, I read about you in Patti Smith's this book just kids? And I say, well, you read my name in Patty's book. You see, they associate me with that lost glory. But I've been kept underground for over 50 years. And I equate those decades only with our glorious defeat. I guess you could say I out-Rambo'd Patty. I know my point of view is incomprehensible to some people. Why? Well, because my point of view has been honed by a long exile at the edge of society.
But if it gets to you,
And sometimes it does.
you feel like you just can't go on.
Trying to talk to stupid people who know nothing about history.
All you gotta do
And you?
is ring a bell.
You need look no further than the roses. Haven't you noticed that roses have lost their scent? That roses no longer smell like roses? Doesn't that worry you? Doesn't that bother you? Can I get a witness in this room? Know what I'm talking about? That roses no longer smell like roses? That was just the beginning. William Shakespeare said a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And what, pray tell, I ask you, is the name of the rose now?
The cupcake.
Incomprehensible.
She's on fire tonight.
There is a gentrification that happens to neighborhoods and cities, but there is also a gentrification that happens to ideas. Woo! Go, Steve! The streets of our cities have been taken over by zombie tourists, hordes of shoppers eating their way across the city, trampling everybody in their path, trampling the citizenry, falling over each other as they shop in stores they could shop in at home. From watching Sex in the City, these people think they're supposed to walk 4 abreast, even when there's 15 of them. Now, have you noticed? Now they just stop in the middle of the sidewalk, 8 of them, and have a long, extended conversation. And you're trying to go around them, and they ignore you completely. Yeah. This is mall sprawl.
Absolutely.
Okay, these people were raised in malls.
Where you can do that.
Look, in New York City, when we walk,
Right.
we're going somewhere. Okay, in New York City, walking is a form of transportation. Okay? When we pass you on the street, we don't walk into you. New Yorkers don't walk into people. We don't go, excuse me, watch out, get out of the way. No, we dip. When we pass you, we just dip. We dip. Everybody used to learn this the first year they were in New York.
Yeah.
You walk by somebody, you dip. You dip. You dip. It's not hard, just dip. Just dip. It's the innate choreography of the city. Why do you think everybody thought New York was so cool? Because people just dip. Just dip your hip. You want people to love you in New York City? When you pass them on the street, dip. Jesus, honestly. You want to do the advanced version? Don't have a conversation at the top of the subway stairs.
No.
subway. Not everyone is getting off at your stop. And what about those baby carriages? I'm not talking about strollers. That was the 90s. These baby carriages are as big as tanks. These baby carriages are as big as Hummers. These baby carriages are manufactured by Hummer.
True, that's correct. That's
And
true.
how old are the children in these baby carriages?
5.
9, 10, 12, 13 years old. I have had to intervene. I have had to say, wait, there are sparks coming off your kid's sneakers. He's 6'2". Let him walk. You're delaying his development. But these people, as soon as the baby's born, they strap it in the baby carriage.
Strap it.
Yeah, because they do not want to run after their children.
Right.
The way parents have had to run after
Since
children.
time immemorial.
Since time immemorial. No, these people only run at the gym. And then when the kid's 14 years old, they let him out of the baby carriage, and the kid is so pent up, so frustrated, he goes straight to school and shoots off his class. Look, don't get mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not talking about the ghetto people. I'm talking about upper middle class enclaves. And what about the princess plague? The princess plague.
no.
You've seen them. All those girls who can't walk in high heels, toddling through the streets of our cities, followed by the drunk boys that want them. Those girls are looking for sugar. Those boys are looking for a blowjob. Maybe if those boys put some frosting on their
Here we go. Here we go.
And what about the dogs? What about the dogs? There are currently more dogs in the 5 boroughs of New York than there were animals when there were farms here. People who hate animals now have dogs. And they carry that dog everywhere. Some of these dogs have never been on the ground. Never stepped foot on the ground. And they put their hand under the dog's chin and make it talk to straight. You love your mommy? You love your mommy? They carry that dog everywhere so that they can prove that they too have one non-judgmental friend. And between the princess plague and the zombie tourists and the baby carriages and the dogs, New York is no longer urban. New York has gone from being the city that never sleeps to the city that can't wake up. New York City is in a coma. It's in a sugar coma. If these people are not queuing up, they queue up. You notice? They've never seen a line that they don't want to join. They queue up. Look, there's a line. Let's get in it. If they're not queuing up for a macaroon, it's for an artisanal gelato. If it's not an artisanal gelato, it's a cotton candy mojito. And if it's not a cotton candy mojito, you know it's probably
A cupcake!
New York has gone from being the Big Apple to being the Big Cupcake. There are 100 cupcake and dessert shops in a 5-block radius of my apartment. People are staggering from one sweet shop to another. A trail of cookie crumbs across the city. The cupcake is the narcotic of these new infantilized masses.
Oh my God.
These people who want a cupcake the way I wish I could smoke a cigarette. These people want a cupcake the way you'd like to smoke a chillum full of hashish. And while the cupcake may appear to many people to be innocent, the cupcake is malevolent. The cupcake represents what Hannah Arendt calls the banality of evil. The gentrification of a poor neighborhood always starts with a cafe and always ends with a cupcake. Therefore, the cupcake is a tool of oppression. Just like that culture of wealth that's invaded all of our inner cities, that culture of wealth that has no taste, that has no style, that has no connoisseurship, that culture of wealth that can only consume style, can only consume taste, that culture of wealth that worships status, that worships celebrity, that worships greed. Just like that culture of wealth, the cupcake hides the brutality of its entitlement. Being a fascist collaborator has never tasted so sweet. But wait, Penny, does this mean that I can never eat another cupcake? No, stupid person. It's a metaphor. Penny, you're gonna get canceled. I'm gonna cancel you. Because so many people are finding self-realization and enlightenment through the variety of cupcakes that are now finally available. Okay? In the event of an identity crisis, consult the dictionary of cupcakes. Are you romantic? Champagne oyster. Are you impulsive? Ginger habanero. Are you creative? Salted mackerel macchiato. Are you cheerful? When you watch the so-called left, liberal, becoming more and more authoritarian every day, controlling language, policing language, making it so everyone's afraid to speak. You feel cheerful when you see the highest levels of American government filled with QAnon and filled with white supremacists? Do you still feel cheerful? No. Well, then you're Lemon Berry. Hey, what kind of cupcake are you? Monogenerational society. Monogenerational, Penny? Did you make that word up? Yes. I'm trying to be specific. Monogenerational, what might it mean? Monogenerational, one generation. At no time in history is everybody who's doing anything in the world, who's doing anything interesting, who's contributing in any way to the world, at no other time in history have those people all been portrayed as being in their 20s and 30s.
That's so true.
That's not reality. That's an advertising graphic. That's a market niche. When I tell young friends of mine, I ask them, people I've known since they were in university, and I say, hey, how old are you now? They stammer and stumble. They look over their shoulder. They make sure nobody's listening. And they sidle over to me. And they whisper in my ear and they go, I'm around 30. Around 30. How sad is that? They know it's bad to be older than 25. They bought into that ridiculous concept of perpetual youth in the perpetual present. Steve, I just tweaked myself. Of course, you don't know where I am.
No, I know. I have the script.
Huh?
I have the script, so I can...
But when you look at it quickly, it's... I'm Penny Panda.
Currently, the high point.
Oh yeah. Currently, the high point of a lived life is viewed as being somewhere between 12 and 25. Old has never been younger. Aging is seen as failing.
So true.
Young people live lives unmoored from history. They've been encouraged to dismiss the past, discount the past, ignore history, but to love vintage. And here's the really scary part. Young people are having their youth stolen from them,
Yes.
and they don't even know it. Go on, Steve. People in their 20s start out being off $200,000 in student debt for jobs that don't exist. People in their 20s are being talked into getting PhDs in performance art,
Oh, God!
divine theater,
That's fucked up!
poetry, choreography, PhDs for jobs that will never exist. People in their 20s want careers. People in their 20s want mortgages. People in their 20s eat in fancy restaurants with tablecloths. People in their 20s drink $20 cocktails. People in their 20s know about wine. Do you remember when young people were poor? Do you remember when young people were broke? Young people used to eat pizza, falafel, ramen. Not $25 ramen, 4 for $1 ramen. You only ate it at the point of starvation. The pleasures of fine cuisine, exotic cocktails, expensive wines. That was supposed to be the compensation prize for getting old. That was supposed to be the distraction from not having sex. I have been young for a long time. I am currently in the youth of my old age. I have squandered my youth for decades, and I've had a great time doing it. Actually, I am all the ages I have ever been. That's why it looks so chaotic up here. But I feel sorry for people in their 20s. I do. I'm not being patronizing. I remember exactly what it was like to be in my 20s. All young people have hearts on fire. All young people want adventure. But today, people in their 20s tell me that they can't spend their 20s the way I spent my 20s, or some of you spent your 20s knocking around, having adventures, making mistakes, not planning on growing up anytime too soon, maybe ever. Young people are handing over the only decade and a half of freedom from responsibility that they will ever know in exchange for security.
Yep.
But what security is there?
None.
What security? Don't they see the 70-year-old people bagging groceries? Don't they see the 80-year-old women serving burgers at Burger King? Well, it doesn't matter, because those jobs aren't going to exist when they're old. We'll have robots.
Yep.
Of 80-year-old women. Because that's what we'll be used to expecting. Young people have been talked into being weak and fragile. Do you ever try to pass a joint or a roach to somebody under 30? Ow, 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 ow! Oh my God, she burned me! She burned me! Oh my God, she's so aggressive! Look, she burned me! She burned me! Penny Arcade hates young people! Young people have been talked into seeing themselves as victims. The latest form of politically correct protection is called empathic correctness, the controlling of any emotional discomfort that any student might have from reading any book that contains violence. University students used to fight to read books that were banned because of sex and violence. University students used to fight censorship, but today it's university students who are silencing and no platforming people visiting universities whose ideas they don't agree with. Today it's university students themselves who are demanding trigger warnings as to which portions of books may contain racism, rape, violence, colonization. Trigger warnings are a kind of a politically correct spoiler alert. So the students only have to read the portions of the books with which they feel perfectly safe and comfortable. Now students can be protected and uneducated. Actually, we're really not even supposed to use the word trigger warning anymore. No, because it might trigger something. Now you have to use the word content. Content. What is it, Steve?
Note.
Huh?
Content note.
Content note.
Oh my God, it's so generic.
Content note. Actually, in 2015, when I started touring the show, it was recommended to me by a 35-year-old journalist in London. He suggested that I put a trigger warning at the top of this show so that I didn't traumatize anybody under 40. You know, people who are not familiar with irony, satire, people, who've gone to university over the past 25, 30 years and have had their sense of humor and ability to think for themselves surgically removed. People who think Penny Arcade is mean. Penny Arcade hates young people. I am not ageist. I do not hate people because of their age. I hate people because of their stupidity. But the truth is, nobody has to be worried about me hating anybody. Because you see, I hate so many people already that I can't hate anybody new until 2029. More and more people are being born into a completely child-centric universe. You can't be direct with them, you can't disagree with them, you'll hurt their feelings. Every single one of them seems to be an expert. You wonder, when are you going to be young? When are you going to be a beginner? Look, even kids their own age have to walk around them on eggshells, and we are living with the tyranny of their fragility. But is it their fault?
No.
I think the problem is their parents.
Yep.
Their parents. Look, even when we loved our parents, we couldn't wait to get away from them. These kids have been talked into being friends with their parents. They can never leave. Their parents need them. Their parents need their approval. Do you realize there are now generations of people who have never been slapped? We were slapped by everyone. Our parents slapped us, our teachers slapped us, our aunts slapped us. Whoa, who just slapped me? Our grandparents slapped us. Now they never see their grandkids again.
True.
Nothing takes the zing out of feeling like a genius, like getting smacked. What is that called, Steve?
Huffington?
Yeah. The Huffington Post. That rag. I don't even know if it still exists. Does it still exist?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
No? Yes. Digital. Yeah, well, it's been
Always been
digital for a long time. Yeah, that's because it's like such a piece of shit. Well, the Huffington Post asked me to comment on nightlife, where young queer and marginalized people could be creative in safe and supportive spaces. Safe and supportive. Nightlife. Yeah, well, that doesn't really sound like a nightclub to me.
Like a psychiatric or...
That sounds more like a mental hospital. I used to hang out at a nightclub every night here in New York City. Yes, I did. Go to Max's, Kansas City, every and I used to go there with Jackie Curtis, Candy Darling, and Holly Woodlawn. Now, some of you, I can feel it, are saying, this girl is so pretentious. Why is she saying these names as if we're supposed to know them? But you do know them. Because depending on your age, you have had to listen to Lou Reed sing about Jackie, Candy, and Holly ad nauseum in Walk on the Wild Side. And I used to go to Max's every night with Jackie, Candy, and Holly, and Patti Smith, and Robert Mapplethorpe, and Iggy Pop, and nobody called him Iggy, and everybody called him Jim. And you know what? None of those people were famous. Not even Andy Warhol was famous then. That's how old I am. And every single night, Bridget Berlin, the famous Warhol superstar. Just a minute, Steve. Trigger warning, content. Body shaming. Is everybody okay? Does anybody need a break? Does anybody need time out? No? Okay, all right. And every single night, Bridget Berlin, 250 pounds, would ambush people topless with a huge hypodermic needle filled with methamphetamine that goes into your ass as you walk by. It was dangerous. But you learned how to avoid her. You learned how to look out for yourself. You learned how to take care of yourself. You can't actually call yourself fierce and ask for safe space in the same place. About a few laughs, I could show you a good time. You wanna have fun? This is not cabaret, people. This is not performance art. This is not stand-up comedy. This is not theater, people. It's too late for theater. In the post-gentrified landscape. Gentrification is over. It has done its damage. Hyper-gentrification is over. It has done its damage. We have been colonized. But this is the new colonization. It's not just out there. It's in here. And here we are, in the before and after. The old has passed away, but the new has not yet come into being.
Once there was a way
York was great. You're just bitter because you're old. Come on, Penny, admit it. You're just being nostalgic. But you see, there's a difference between nostalgia and longing. Nostalgia is a wistful, sentimental yearning, not only for the past, but for who we were in that past. Nostalgia is passive. It's done from a safe distance. The way nostalgia functions is it protects us from feeling the reality of what we settled for. Longing is a persistent sense of loss that attaches to ourselves, our history, our values, our desires that are not material. Nostalgia is connected to the past, but we, all of us, we will long into the future. Longing lasts longer than anything else. I was never nostalgic for the 60s. Come on, all those assassinations in one decade? Come on. Okay, people of all ages, linked arms across the planet to end the war in Vietnam, to fight for civil liberties for all people. But make no mistake, the 60s were violent. I was raped 5 times before I was 18 years old in the East Village during Flower Power. By 1969, New York City was a police state. By 1970, every capital city across the planet had turned to the right, just like now. I couldn't wait for the 60s to be over. Well, I was never nostalgic for the 70s. Come on, the clothes were ugly, made out of polyester, and the music sucked. And the backlash against the power of evil dissipated, and the beautiful, peaceful, non-violent, anarchist revolution died in its tracks. We were demoralized. Besides that, I was in my 20s in the 70s. Who wants to go back to being in their 20s? Only a moron. I mean, honestly, who thinks their 20s is the high point of their existence? I couldn't wait till the 70s were over. I couldn't wait till my 20s were over. I was never nostalgic for the 80s. That's when the decades started repeating themselves. Yeah, New York City was filled with Euro trash, yuppies. Yeah, they would come and they would party in our downtown spaces, our performance spaces, our galleries, our bars, spending all their parents' and grandparents' money, just like now. But at night, they would go home to the Upper East Side. At least they didn't want to live in our slum neighborhoods the way they do now. At least they hadn't taken over every working class neighborhood in the city. I spent my 30s and the entire decade of the 80s taking care of my friends who were dying of AIDS. AIDS is not over. Do not believe the propaganda of the big pharmaceutical companies. All they've been doing for 30 years is medicalizing AIDS. They have no desire, no intention to cure AIDS. They have none. And they are lying to young people. They're telling young people, go ahead, become HIV positive. It's no longer a problem. We have drugs to sell you. You can take just 1 pill a day for the rest of your life. They lie about the side effects. They lie about everything. Protect yourself. Protect your young friends. I watched over 300 people I knew die of AIDS. And you know what? I'm not nostalgic about it. I'm not nostalgic for the 90s, the advent of the hipster. The hipsters. That's when everybody became an artist. And being an artist stopped being something you could do and became an identity. In the 60s, when I was 17, I used to say, if everybody just dressed like us and did drugs like us and listened to rock and roll like us and criticized the government and the corporations and the banks like us, well, then the world would be a better place. Well, the hipsters proved that wrong. I'm not nostalgic for the oddies, the 2000s. That's when everybody became an activist. And being an activist stopped being something you volunteered for and became an identity. Look, hitting like on Facebook is not active. Discussing the problems of the world over Prosecco and tapas is not active. Honestly, people, calling yourself an activist, that's like calling yourself a saint. An activist is what your community calls you after decades of selfless, usually anonymous service.
Absolutely.
Look, you can call yourself a Buddhist without meditating, and you can call yourself an anarchist without reading Bakunin, but you cannot call yourself an activist without acting. Well, in the year 2000, that's when the decades started to merge. I was at the Jaffa Cafe with Steve and some of our dancers after a show. The Jaffa Cafe, another long-time cultural landmark in the East Village, closed because of gentrification. And the waiter came over to the table. He had a mohawk, 45 tattoos, and multiple piercings. But he was wearing a clean white polo shirt with a little green alligator and carefully ironed Gap chino jeans. I said, the way you're dressed is confusing me. What does it mean? He said, what does what mean? I said, the way you're dressed. You're sending mixed messages into the world. What does it mean? He said, the way I'm dressed? I said, yes. The way you're dressed, what does it mean? He said, the way I'm dressed doesn't mean anything. That's when I knew that history had ended. I have always lived in the present. I don't want to be who I was then. I want to be who I am now. On the road to who I'm becoming. I was never a brownie. I was never a Girl Scout. I quit school when I was 13. I never went to high school. I never went to university. I never went to art school. I never took a queer studies class, a black studies class, or a queer studies class, or a women's studies class. I don't need theory. I live my politics on the street with my body, not on a velour couch in a student union with 8 other people who took the same class as me. No offense. God bless. I am part of the control group. I am sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is what it looks like. This is what it sounds like. You can only get this point of view from somebody over 60. I'm sorry. We saw the good bands. We had the great drugs.
It's true.
But as I do this show, I know you don't have to be the same age as me to think about the same things I think about. I know you don't have to have had the same exact experiences as me to be worried about the things I'm worried about. I feel you in this room, and I know. And you know, we are not the only ones.
No.
It's 2023 and 1984 has really kicked in. But finally people are starting to notice. You know, in 1984 when I was 34, I read George Orwell's book, 1984, just in case. It scared the shit out of me. Big brother watching you through a screen in your own living room. A screen. But now Big Brother's no longer a faceless ogre, no. Now he's a fresh-faced lifestyle salesman with an iPhone 17 in one hand and a Starbucks venti in the other. Yes, he's always 3 coffees and 4 phones ahead of you. Individuality, authenticity, adventure. You know what? Most people don't want those things. No, it's being heavily promoted to people. Adventure, individuality, authenticity. But most people don't want those things. They don't want the instability of real life. They don't want the anxiety of real life. Most people try to pretend that they're not confused and depressed. Me? I don't trust people who are depressed and confused. If you're depressed and confused, you're on the right track.
Right.
If you're depressed and confused, you're a pioneer, you're a scout. You're one of the few people facing the reality of what it means to be human in 2023. It's not pretty. Plenty of people prefer to be plugged in, on the street, on the train, at home. The way they deal with the instability of real life is they have a technological lobotomy. They're on internet life support. The experts keep telling us that we're becoming more and more absorbed in technology, but that is not true. What's true is technology is absorbing us. I don't know about you, but my computer is dictating to me, watching me. It's telling me where to go shopping, what shoes to buy, where to go on vacation, what books to read. I didn't open any of those windows. It's like a home invasion. More and more we talk only about technology, never about our shared humanity. Empathy is being bred out of human beings. Artificial intelligence cannot be stopped. But right now, we're still ruled by the medulla oblongata, the old brain. That's right. I'm not talking about sex, I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about the animal brain, the old animal brain that only has one message. In a woman or someone with a lot of estrogen, it speaks its message. And it starts out quietly between the age of 12 and 14, depending on your culture, and it gets louder and louder and louder, till in your 50s it is absolutely screaming, protect me, protect me, protect me. In a man or in someone with a lot of testosterone, beginning around the same age, but saying completely the same until death, the medulla oblongata says, beer, chips, pussy, pussy, beer, chips, pussy. The medulla oblongata only has one message. The biological imperative has only one message, and that is to rock and procreate. Okay, maybe you're a gay man. Maybe you believe that the biological imperative has no sway over you. Well, you're wrong. Because the biological imperative is blind. The biological imperative cannot tell the difference between a cunt, a cock, and a asshole. We are using those terms scientifically. Eventually, you will no longer be at the top of the sexual batting order. Eventually, you will no longer be the most attractive sexual object in the landscape. Eventually, your biology will drop you. Maybe you're trans, maybe you're bi, maybe you're non-binary, maybe you're heterosexual. Whatever you are, eventually your biology will drop you, as it drops us all. But at that point, you will have the unprecedented opportunity to rule your own life instead of being run by your hormones, instead of being run by your biology. But sadly, by the time most people hit 50, they're so depressed by what they thought life was supposed to be, by what was advertised to them, that they just give up, missing all the fun I was in Los Angeles at the Bodhi bookstore, another long-time cultural landscape in a town that had so few. And I was in the Bodhi bookstore doing what I've always done in bookstores before the internet, and I do it still. I'm sure many of you are like me. I was just standing around in the bookstore waiting for a book. Yeah. I mean, I have very, very rarely gone to a bookstore looking for a specific book. No. I go to a bookstore looking for a book that may be looking for me. And a book on the shelf of the Bodhi bookstore called to me, and I took it off the shelf, and I opened it just anywhere as you would an oracle, and my eyes fell upon these words. As far as your spiritual evolution is concerned, your relationship with other people has almost nothing to do with it. And I had a complete meltdown. No, I did, because since the age of 14, I have sought out the most exceptional people, the most interesting people. I truly believe that in order for me to evolve, in order for me to develop, I had to be in the presence of amazing people. So you can imagine my shock when I realized that all I had been doing for decades was avoiding my relationship with myself. Then I thought about all my romantic relationships, all that suffering, all that misunderstanding. And I realized that for decades, I have been torturing perfectly nice people. Torturing and tormenting perfectly nice people who couldn't give me what I needed. I mean, I would focus on one person, and if that person couldn't give me what I needed, would I leave them? Never! Never! I would torture them till they left me. I would say, you're the only person who can love me. I have to have this love from you. If you don't give me this love, if you don't give me this love, then there isn't any love for me in the whole world. But if you give me this love that I so desperately need, only from you, I'll help you. Because you have a lot of potential, but obviously you're just wasting your life. Then I thought, who gives you the best birthday present? You. Who knows what you really want for Christmas? You. Who knows what you want in bed the second you want it? You. Who thinks every idea you have is great? You. Who never says, oh, really, Penny? Who always says, great idea, Penny, let's do it! Me! Why did I spend all those years trying to merge with other people? I could have learned to speak Chinese. I could have learned to cook Thai food. Quentin Crisp, the great raconteur, the great gay icon, was a very good friend of mine. But Quentin and I had an ongoing argument, and that argument was about romantic love. Quentin Crisp did not believe in romantic love. And after every failed love affair, I would go to Quentin, and I'd say, oh, Quentin, relationships are so hard. And Quentin would say, then why do you do it? Because I want to be happy.
Well, happiness is never in other people.
What?
Happiness is never out there. Happiness is in here.
What's that supposed to mean? Okay, Quentin, but then when you're happy in here, you want to share it, preferably with somebody who's out there. And Quentin said,
Never share anything.
never share anything. What is that supposed to mean? I thought relationships were all about sharing. I believed myself to be the world's greatest sharer. Well, eventually, I had to face the reality. I was never sharing. I was exchanging. I was giving people what I thought they wanted so that I could get what I wanted. But now, all these years later, I really understand what Quentin was trying to teach me. And I really do understand that no matter how much love any of us have in our lives, we are each and every one of us on our own journey alone. People, I'm talking about amore fati, the love of your own fate. I embraced everything that happened in my life, all the pain, all the tragedy, with the same curiosity, the same enthusiasm that I embraced joy. Did I like it? No, I didn't like it. I'm not a masochist. But did it teach me what it means to be human? Yes. Did it help me jump out of that paradigm? Something bad happened early in my life. Now I have to always be sad. Oh wait, something good happened today, and I'm happy. But wait, what am I going to do when this little happiness runs out? I'm scared. People, I'm talking about amore fati. I'm talking about your self-respect. Your self-respect is a living thing. Your self-respect is a terrible thing to lose. Your self-respect will atrophy over time. Society tries to siphon off your self-respect on a daily basis in exchange for fitting in exchange for status, in exchange for going along. People, we seek the approval of other people. Why? Because it's so hard to get our own approval, and yet it's only our own approval that we can do anything with. Our own approval is the only thing that gives us power. Happiness? Happiness is a decision you make. Happiness is not magic, people. It's not magic. It's not only for some people. Have you ever seen children playing? They're happy for no reason. I'm even happy when I'm miserable. Yeah. I'm happy when I'm miserable because it's my misery. And I own it. And I farm my misery till it becomes happiness, or I kick it to the curb. I don't need anyone to make me happy. And neither do you. We need people to share our happiness with. There's nowhere to hide from the innate sorrow of being human, from the longing that's intrinsic to our humanity, the longing that makes us different from our brothers and sisters, the animals. What's that, Penny? The knowledge that we will die. The knowledge that those we love will die. That nothing ever stays completely the same. Nothing good and nothing bad ever stays completely the same. Longing lasts longer than anything else. Joy, gratitude, authenticity, individuality, those are our only weapons in the face of certain death and annihilation, in the face of gentrification, in the face of the erasure of history, in the face of the growing authoritarianism, in the face of the encroaching totalitarianism. Many people give up. They say, what can we do? Many of us ask ourselves, what can I do? Own your life. Be the person that carries the history. Demand the right to be a free thinker. Demand the right to express yourself in your own language. Protect your authenticity as you become older. Your authenticity becomes of great comfort to you. Your authenticity gives you a place to stand. In your authenticity, that is where synchronicity springs from. And synchronicity is what lights the path to your destiny. And then, live in your gratitude. Why? Because that's where the magic is. Carmen here, I'm like completely melted.